Addio, mia bella Napoli, addio, addio, la tua soave immagine,
Ciao
chi mai
ragazzi and
scordar
benvenuti to the
potrò.
44th episode of In the Shadow of Vesuvio. My name is Henry Bell and I'm broadcasting this today at the end of a long day in Paisley. I'm back in the land of Enzo's. It's exciting, isn't it? Um, now, joining me is Enzo's Fish and Chips biggest global fan, Michele Borelli, who is in Naples, a Napoli, in the shadow of Vesuvio. Wrapped up nice and warm, I see there. How's it going, Michele?
Hello, hello. Yes, I'm Enzo's number one fan. Can you believe that in Napoli, in the whole city, there is no fish and chips place? Not even one.
I mean,
Not
it's
even one.
that's one of the reasons I love Napoli so much.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, though. It's crazy. Like when I wake up in the morning and I want some good fish and chips, like yeah, like as you do, there is absolutely no place to, nothing comparable to Enzo. That's crazy to me. But yeah. Hello everyone. Yeah, it's quite chilly in Napoli, but it's not. We haven't had any winter so far. I have to be
Hate,
honest.
I hate you so much.
Yeah.
You sent me a picture yesterday, Michele, which I did tweet out actually. I might retweet it again. It's one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen. And I was in, actually, it was a nice day in air yesterday as well. But you went on a bit of an adventure, which maybe we'll talk about in a second. But before we do, what is number 44 in the Napoli Tombola?
Not dirty, unfortunately, but yeah. Well, now number 44 in the Napoleon Tombola is Eganciel, La Prigione, the prison. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, yeah. It's okay. It's
Denmark's a prison, as Hamlet says early on in the play.
We are gonna have better numbers in the future. We're gonna
Yeah.
have better days, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, as we'll move on to speaking about shortly, the maybe the experience. Would you rather be in prison or have to watch Lazio versus Napoli again? If you had to choose between the two, which one would you go for?
I think if I had to, like based on this season's luck, I would be in a prison watching Napoli, probably.
Oof,
So yeah, so that's fair. That's fair.
double
But
whammy. That's
double.
that's not what you need. But yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to our show. Today, we're going to do a bit of responding to listeners' questions, which is because we care about you deeply. And now we seem to be on a bit of a roll. Perhaps you're more motivated to interact with us. So let's see. So we got some really interesting questions. We will briefly talk about Lazio versus Napoli. I feel like even giving it the oxygen and publicity is a kind of an insult to football, to be honest.
Agreed.
Um, but before we do, so yeah, tell me about what you did yesterday. I mean, so you sent me a picture with a view of Naples from a bit of a distance. So presumably you got on your scooter and you went out of town on a glorious sunny day.
I was in Napoli. I was right in the middle of Napoli. It's
What?
yeah, I know. I think that people misunderstood that picture. Uh well, I mean, I sent it to you and then I found out that you shared it with the world. It was a very intimate and private picture that I sent you. But yeah, whatever.
Everything
And
you send me is fair cop for at Shadow of Vesuvio on the site formerly known as Twitter.
the funny thing is that I send you, sometimes it happens that I send you some pictures just because I want to send it to you. You don't reply. And then I find out that as soon as I send it to you, you shared it on Twitter, but you didn't reply to me. So and I don't open Twitter that often. So
I'm a
like
busy man.
yeah, I sent you a picture, like you no reply whatsoever. I think, okay, whatever. Like he's ignoring me. Like, yeah, it's better things to do. And the better things to do are actually sharing it with the world and getting people to comment on it. So
The
yeah, I
world.
sent you the picture. I was right in the middle of Napoli. I was in Posillipo. As you
Mm.
know, Napoli is a little bit hilly. No, there are some hills in Napoli, and one of those hills is the Posillipo Hill. Posillipo Hill is very fancy. It's I would say, a residential area. It's one of the richest residential areas in Napoli, and it's a little bit odd because it's one of the richest areas in Napoli, but it also has some of the shittiest roads you'll ever see in your life. Like there are so many um, um, manholes, the potholes,
Potholes, yeah, potholes,
yeah,
yeah.
like so, like just the street, like the road, the quality of the road is so bad. And since I go around with my scooter, you can really feel it. It's like dancing when I drive on those roads. But having said that, yeah, a lot of Napoli players actually live in Posillipo. I
Have you
think
got any rumors? Did you see anyone?
no, no.
Oh,
I know where they live, kind of. But no, no, I don't have any rumors. My brother met Koulibaly once. I know because he was clubbing in a club next door to Koulibaly's house. It was, I think, the day like he was about to leave, and yeah, he met him like in the streets randomly. I never met any Napoli players in the streets. That's amazing to me. Unacceptable.
they stay away from you because they know that you're keen to broadcast every detail of their sordid
That
personal lives to
that's fair enough. Yeah. Well, Maradona used to live in Posillipo too. Actually,
yeah.
yeah, it's in a rather unremarkable house, if I can say that. But yeah, most Napoli players live there. I went there yesterday because it's since it's on a hill, it's one of the most panoramic areas in Napoli, and I have a there's a quite a nice cafe there, which is called Cafe Panoramico, I think. Yeah, and
And why have they called it that?
yeah, I have no idea. It's quite pricey, but it's I mean for Napoli standards, it's quite pricey.
Okay, hang on. So
So
I just need to give Dan Bowen a trigger warning. So Dan, just skip this podcast on a couple of minutes. Okay, Michele, what did you have?
no, I just said it was a breakfast. So I just had I went there with my girlfriend. She had a coffee and I had a cappuccino and a brioche. Actually, I didn't feel like
Mm.
having a croissant. It was quite good actually. I didn't expect it to be that good. It was just an empty brioche, but it was great. It was amazing. And
Always
yeah,
go
no,
classico. Always go classico. Don't
yeah,
put anything in your brioche.
exactly. And we paid 11 euros at the end of the day.
Oh, but you pay for the view. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's briefly pivot into um, breakfast then, and Naples and Napoli.
Okay.
Colazione.
Yes.
Yeah, my Italian, moves on in leaps and bounds.
Mhm.
Uh, what would you say is is there a particular pastry or classic thing you'd have specifically to Naples, or is it more pretty standard across the peninsula?
I have no idea if they have the same breakfast across the whole country, but I would say the typical Neapolitan breakfast. I have some hot takes about it too, but the typical
That's what we're here for,
Neapolitan,
Michele. We're
yeah,
here for
the
your hot
typical
take.
Neapolitan breakfast is just coffee and a pastry. That could be a croissant. Usually, it's just a croissant, a cornetto, if you will, in Italian.
See?
Um, yeah, it could be a cornetto. Like I had yesterday a brioche. You could put stuff inside. You could put just plain chocolate or some crema. You could put some amarena. You could put some stuff like that. And yeah, it's
Hang on, what's Amarena?
I don't know. Like how do I explain it in English? I don't know. I don't like it, to be honest. It's just like I don't know. Let me see if I can translate it. But it's just like um, it's like reddish. Um,
Is it like a marmalade?
Okay, yeah, Google Translate said it's a black cherry amarena,
Yes, yes, of course.
amarena,
Yeah, that makes sense.
amarena. I have no idea. Like, I don't like it. So yeah, yeah. Actually, 2 days ago, I went to a cafe and I asked for an empty, no, actually a crema croissant. They gave me a croissant with crema e amarena, which pissed me off immensely because I didn't want amarena. And I was having breakfast with my father, and he said, "Oh yeah, but of course they put amarena with crema." I said, "I didn't know that." So it was quite funny because he got a croissant with amarena and he had cream inside. And I asked for a croissant with crema and I got amarena inside. So it was quite funny because at the same time he was scooping out the crema from his
Okay,
cornetto and I was scooping out the amarena from my cornetto. So
beautiful.
it was quite funny. But yeah, that's uh,
Okay,
that
so
that's the typical breakfast
uh,
in
I'm going to
Napoli.
try it next time I'm there. And is there anything for our listeners that thinking about visiting Napoli for the first time? What would you How would you sound like an idiot, basically? Like, is there anything that you just should not ask for, like if you're going for a breakfast in a bar or anything like that?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think anything is awfully. I don't know. It's like what the usual, like not maybe I don't know about mistakes for breakfast. The usual mistake people make here as I think it's quite popular. Like they ask for a cappuccino in the afternoon and in the evening,
That
and
was my
that's
next
kind
question.
of yeah. People don't do that. It's really it's a bit weird. It's not like I wouldn't say it's wrong. It's just it's unusual. Let's say we don't have like so when we say coffee in Napoli, we always mean espresso. Like if you go to a cafe and you ask for a coffee, they will give you espresso. If you want something else, you have to specifically ask for something else. We don't have any French press,
Yeah.
this kind of Americano types coffee, even though a lot of cafes now, I mean, it's easy enough to do it. And they do it because we have a lot of tourists and yeah, tourists want that. But generally speaking, no one in Napoli gets like watered down coffee.
I
The
mean, why would
I,
anybody want that? I haven't, since having an Italian in my life and house for the past nearly 10 years now, I haven't drunk a big coffee for that period of time. And you know what? Now, it's good that we can talk about this. My guts have thanked me ever since. Just having, I don't know how anyone can now stomach all that, keep all that coffee in their stomach. I don't know how anyone does it. So, yeah, when you go to Naples, just drink the coffee as it is what I'd say. It might change your life.
yeah, exactly. And maybe one of the things that people don't know about coffee in Napoli, it's funny because Napoli is supposed to be one of the best places in Italy to get coffee, but we have all these different things about it. It's not always the best coffee, in my opinion. Again, I have some hot takes about that. But for example, takeaway coffee, not popular in Napoli at all. You can still ask for it. Like usually you can like the guys working in a cafe, if you ask for like if you work in a nearby office, maybe something like that, they deliver it to you in like like one time, like plastic cups. And
I always
yeah,
see dudes going into cafes and like taking away like loads of and they put the silver foil on top of the
yeah,
plastic cups.
the funny thing is that and it's so weird to me. Like I took it for granted, but then one day, I just woke up and said, "Wait, why do we do this?" Is that if you go to a cafe, you ask for like 3 or 4 coffees, like takeaway coffees. Again, we just covered it. When I say coffee, I mean espresso. What they do is that's so weird to me. They take a glass bottle, and that's usually like a fruit juice bottle, like a very small one. It's like I don't know, like 30, 40, 50, no, yeah, 30 uh centiliters, maybe something. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like yeah, 30. I guess it's fine. 0.3 liters of glass bottle, and they fill it with coffee with espresso, and then they put the aluminum foil on
Oil,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and they give you some cups, some
As
plastic
you
cups,
pour it
and they
out,
send you away.
they kind
Yeah,
of decant the they decant the espresso.
yeah, it's so funny to me if I think about this. Like this this city runs on coffee, and we haven't invented a proper way to transfer coffee, like to sell takeaway coffee. There is no such thing as like the Starbucks cups in Napoli. I've never seen any. Maybe like a couple of places where they pretend to be like American, and
Yeah.
yeah, they have those cups. But I've never seen anyone get a takeaway cappuccino. And you know what? I think that's I don't know. Like I understand why, but I also think that's wrong. Like one of my very hot takes about coffee is that I don't mind Starbucks. And when I say this, people go crazy on me. But the thing is that
Particularly being an Italian, I
yeah,
think.
I would love for Starbucks to open in Napoli, but hear me out. It's not
Wow. Wow,
wait.
Michele.
No,
Oh
wait,
my God.
let me elaborate. Let me elaborate. It's not because of the coffee quality. It's because of the vibe, the atmosphere, the vibe inside. So when I used to live in London, I used to go to Starbucks, Cafe Nero, whatever, all the time because I used to love like going there with my laptop and study and work a little bit there.
Oh, I see.
And in Napoli, you don't really do that, and that's crazy to me. Like there
Mm.
are no really like like public, relaxed places where you can study or work with a coffee with you. Like usually, like even when like cafes have tables, it's just like you never see people study there. You never see people,
Because everyone's
like
talking to
with
each
a
other.
laptop. Yeah,
Like whenever I
exactly.
go in, I mean, admittedly, I'm like a blonde idiot walking in usually in a Napoli shirt.
Even outside
And
Italy, you are there.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. And you know, it's people would just talk to you, and people are talking across the table. Maybe that's just my experience as a tourist, but that's it. Okay. I mean, you can tell Napoli have played the worst game that perhaps I've ever seen. That for how long we're talking about coffee, but I think your Starbucks take is the hottest take you've ever dropped in 44 episodes. That's incredible.
I maintain that Starbucks in Napoli will still be successful. Not because of the coffee quality that's really bad, but I think that people in Napoli and in Italy in general would enjoy a place where you can just, like a cafe with a sofa, for example. Is it such a
Okay.
crazy concept? Like
Yeah.
you go into, yeah, you sit on a sofa in a cafe and you talk with your friends while sitting on a sofa. I think it's perfectly normal. It's crazy to me that we don't have something like that in Napoli. If I had a lot of money, I would invest in that right now in Napoli and in Italy.
Giving it away. You're giving I mean, how many years did you study business, Michele?
Yeah,
You've just
yeah.
given your idea away.
Yeah, I have so many ideas. It's just I just lack the capital. So if you want to invest in my business ideas, please reach out on whatever. Like they can reach you out. Like you're gonna be my agent.
I'll take 10%. 12 and a
Fine,
half, actually.
agreed.
So if you
15,
also
15. Take it or leave it. 15.
yeah, I'm gonna keep going up. If you want to come at Michele for this ridiculous take that he's just said about Starbucks, yeah, at Napoli tickets or at Michele GNT, or us at Shadow of Vesuvio. Right. I suppose we have to talk about it. Lazio versus Napoli.
Do we?
I'm sorry. So we've already answered the first thing. Someone asked us if that was taken from Monte di Procida. You've answered that person. Who I think is actually a Lazio fan. There we go. We're transcending club boundaries. So Tom Dixon at King Shrimper, who's big, always in with a comment. Always good to engage with you, Tom. Asks us 5 at the back, needed for solidity or 2 negative, and I think that's really the question that we can sort of answer to talk about that crime against football that happened at the weekend. What do you reckon, Michele?
I think it's clear that Mazzarri is going all in. So Mazzarri, when he was asked some questions, especially in December when he joined us, he always mentioned the fact that we needed some balance. He said the team is imbalanced. We get a lot of counter attacks. That's not the way to defend. So it's clear to me. It was more or less explicit about it. It's clear to me that he's focusing a lot on defense. I would argue that maybe it's because it's something that he can like. I wouldn't say he's an expert, but he's more comfortable focusing on that. And I think it's absolutely fine to focus firstly on defense. I don't think you can be a balanced team, and you have to be one if you don't have a good defense. So the problem, it's clear, no? The problem is that we are only focusing on defense, and more importantly, I guess we are focusing on defense at the expense of forwards, the attacking phase. That's pretty clear, and proved by the fact that we had 0 shots on target. I think I read like a statistic for the 3rd time in 15 years, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's like only the 3rd game in Serie A in the last 15 years, and I don't know how long that we have had 0 shots on target, and that's pretty. It's hard to say it's an anomaly, a statistical anomaly, because it's quite clear, if you watch the games that, we are absolutely only focusing on defense right now. And, to his credit, we are actually not conceding anymore. And that's
I mean, it's working to a certain
fine.
degree, but the problem is that we're not going to climb the table playing like this. It's a good way of staying in the same place.
Yes.
What I was a bit confused about, and apologies for talking about football, everybody, but why we need 2 defensive midfielders. As far as I can tell, looking at that game on the TV from my sofa, we usually had a triangle that had 2 defensive midfielders and then just somebody playing, in normal midfield. So that was, and they kind of took it in turns. And that for me, when you got 3 at the back, you really don't need that. And it just killed the game. And it didn't help that Sarri also had a similar approach. I think the one mitigating factor is the Supercoppa. I mean, obviously everyone was knackered, and that journey. I mean, the whole thing about it is silly, the new format and doing it in Saudi Arabia. I just don't think that's. I mean, you saw the effects actually for the Inter game as well. I mean, all the teams that played, I think really struggled to produce something interesting for us to look at. Saw a few glimpses of our new signings, but nothing to really look on. I think we've really got to see something happen in the next game. It's Verona, right? The next game, is that right?
Yeah, Verona
Yeah.
at home.
So Verona at home, one would expect at least one shot on target.
That
Maybe
would be an improvement, I guess.
maybe even two, Michele. We
Oh wow,
can.
let's not get carried away. 2 shots on target? What are we talking about? No, come on, no. I mean,
And
I
what?
guess I agree with what you said. I guess the other factor to take into consideration is that we had a lot of missing players.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Kvaratskhelia disqualified, Simeone same, Osimhen in Africa. Just talking about our forwards, that's quite a lot. And yeah, I mean Raspadori. I'm not the biggest fan of Raspadori. He's not bad, but I don't think he's that good in that position.
Yeah, he's just you got to play him in a quite a specific way and not. I mean, he saw it so many times, like him being on his own, trying to, and he just gets muscled off the ball, Although he's actually quite strong, but he can't lead that line with nothing behind him.
Yeah, I think the thing about Raspadori is that he's a very good team player.
Mm.
The problem with that is that you need a team to be a team player, and he doesn't have one right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because Raspadori is like, I think when Raspadori is at his best, is able to elevate, especially the wingers, because we play in a 4-3-3 normally. So if he has good wingers and maybe like good attacking midfielders, then he's able to, to communicate with them and play off them, and he takes advantage of that, and the wingers and the attacking midfielders take advantage of that too. Is now we're playing super defensively. We have only Raspadori and Politano, and that's it basically. So yeah, it's clear that that's really not his job, and I don't want to be too harsh on him because of that. But yeah, that's it is what it is, and yeah, we definitely need Simeone kind of player, for
Or an
this
Osimhen,
period right now. Yeah, Osimhen too. Yes, exactly.
who I've been really enjoying the African Cup, and anyone listening, give it a go. Because in this kind of bleak season of Napoli, it's been such an entertaining tournament. But yeah, it was grim as hell, and it's some interesting noises. Did you see what Rachmani tweeted? I can't remember the exact phrase that he used, but I think he was a bit overly complimentary about what had just happened. And I thought, oh God, this bar's getting low. The standards that Spalletti set last season have completely gone. But moving on very quickly. Okay, there's some of these questions you need to answer. Some of these questions you need to answer quite quickly, Michele, because we've actually got quite a lot. So I asked the Glasgow Napoli group for some questions. Ross, hey Ross. Ross is famous in this group for his artistic skills of making banners.
Nice.
He once made a very interesting Kvaratskhelia banner that, was almost post-expressionist. Anyway, Ross wants to know, have you ever had Iron Brew?
Have I ever had what?
Iron Brew. So you've lived in Scotland and you don't know what Iron Brew is, Michele?
No, I have no idea. What is that?
Mamma mia. Okay, Iron Brew is a soft drink, an orange soft drink that comes from Scotland. You can get it across the UK, and it's drunk by everybody. And it's like a national symbol, and it's a national drink.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, it's got quite a bleak story. It was kind of invented to keep workers in their place in the late 19th century, but let's not go into that.
That's nice. Okay.
But it's now become so Coca-Cola keep trying to buy it, and everyone's in this kind of great act of like Scottish solidarity to tell them to use a phrase from this part, get to fuck. And
what's the name of it again?
Iron Brew. And those of us listening in America as well, this is a really important thing. So you've never had it. Okay. Next time we draw a Scotch tea. In fact, next time I come over, I will bring an Iron Brew for you. And I promise the Glasgow Napoli group, I promise you, I will get a picture of Michele with it.
I'm not big on soft drinks. That's the thing.
You don't drink anything?
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try. But that's the reason why. That's my explanation behind the fact that yes, I lived in Scotland. I never tried that.
Okay, I'm going to try and mix up the lighter questions with the serious ones. So Phil Turner at Vongole21 on the artist formerly known as Twitter asks, thoughts on the team ranking in the top 20 financially? Does it change anything? I think I know what you'll say though. This is what Phil says. So I don't 100% know what that means. So is there a new thing? Are we in the top 20 clubs in the world for finances or something?
Yeah, I mean, well, we covered it. Ciao, Phil. By the way, thank you for the question. I think it's a very interesting question because it's a question that touches on, the possible growth of the team. I mean, I could answer this question in like 5 hours because there is a lot to say.
5 minutes maybe instead of 5 hours, but
No, but yeah, it's fine. I'll be short. So what Phil is mentioning is that so in the ranking of top teams, based on revenue, like season revenue, we broke the top 20. I don't know. I think we are either the number 20 or 19, something like that. But we're very close to the 20, top 20, but low top 20.
Okay.
And yeah, I think we discussed it a little bit. It is clear and obvious for everyone that last season, it was such a successful season on the pitch and off the pitch that those usually go together, right? And especially for Napoli, which doesn't have the advantage of having a rich owner. That's particularly important. So last season, Napoli had I think the highest revenue in the club history, which sounds incredibly, it sounds incredible and sounds amazing, but it's quite normal because obviously, I mean, all normal teams usually, increase their revenues year by year, if not just because of inflation, just we could just say that. And we Napoli unfortunately is not one of those clubs that in the past 15 years have increased their revenue steadily. This is one of my biggest arguments against De Laurentiis because we might grow on the pitch, which fair enough is the most important part of being a football club. But off the pitch, we are not really doing much. And this is based on the past 15 years. And we with Lete, for example, which has been our main sponsor, shirt sponsor for so many years. I think they only gave us like 8 millions per season. And then usually people tell me, oh yeah, okay, but look at Roma, for example. Roma doesn't even have a sponsor. For many years, Roma hasn't had a sponsor, like shirt sponsor, and Lazio the same. That's fair, fair enough. Okay, it's fine. But yeah, we like in terms of
how many Scudetti have those teams won in
exactly. No, the thing is that when we talk about this, we have to last season is kind of like an asterisk season for everything, on the pitch and off the pitch. Because usually, again, like we don't have like this is something like it's I obsessed about this stuff because I think it's quite important. And yeah, I mean what we would say in Italian, the structural revenue of Napoli, which is the stable revenue, because obviously with football clubs are a little bit weird because you get a lot of money and it kind of fluctuates. If you sell a player for 100 million, obviously the revenue are going to go up by a lot. So when you consider the structural revenue, you don't really consider player trading, for example, right?
Yeah.
And the structural revenue for Napoli, which also ignores the Champions League money, has always been very steady. So usually without until last season at least, without Champions League and player trading, Napoli's revenue was about 140 millions per season, which is not a lot at all.
And it stayed similar.
Absolutely, yeah. So this accounts for shirt sales, ticket sales.
You're right. That's really interesting because that really tells the story of some of the frustrations that we've had with the ADL, sort of lack of kicking on,
Exactly.
post being in Serie A.
Yeah. So
and you would think that would go up, wouldn't you, with the sort of commercialization and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think we've been very slow about a lot of things. I remember following Napoli like 10 years ago, a little bit maybe earlier than that. And I remember that when Roma was very heavily present on Facebook. At the time was Facebook, and it was the beginning of teams opening their pages on Facebook and starting actually using social media. I remember that while Roma was full blown, like very, very, very active on Facebook, Napoli shared nothing. I remember Napoli's Facebook page was actually empty. It was on, it was open, but it was absolutely empty. And it stayed like that for many, many months. And it was so slow at the time. I was like, why don't we do anything about this? So it's been frustrating like this on many other things. And so
And
last
also,
season,
but I think if we look at the frustrations of this season, and we're coming off our most successful financial season, like what a mistake that summer was, going back to that mercato, that we didn't invest anything in the team, really. Going off the back of such a successful commercial performance. And we know why, of course, it all goes back to the same thing, right?
No, I agree with you. But the thing is that when I talk about this stuff, I don't really consider player trading, because player trading is a little bit different. Like
I see what you mean.
You can't plan on buying good players. Like you can plan on spending money, but buying good players is different because it needs intuition. But you can plan on opening, for example, Napoli stores across the country or across Napoli. You can plan on opening a new stadium or a training center and stuff like that. This you can plan. I think like a proper club does that, and we haven't done that.
A particular
whatsoever.
club that's qualified for Europe every year since 2008, is it, 2009? You would expect it to kick on.
Like for example, like a lot of people complain to me about the fact that it's very hard to buy Napoli shirts. And like you go to the stadium, there is no official Napoli store. There are a couple, but they are super small, and they are only in specific sections of the stadium. Like in Curva, for example, where I go, there is no Napoli there is no, like it's too flattering to call it a Napoli store, because it's not a Napoli store. It's like a 5 square meters area where there are a couple of guys selling Napoli stuff, and that's only for, as far as I know, 2 sections out of 8. We have 8 sections, and all the sections in Napoli stadiums are closed off, so you cannot walk from one section to the other. So the stores, quote unquote stores, in those 2 sections are only for those 2 sections. And it's small stuff like that. So to answer to Phil and our record revenue. Yes, the record revenue. So last season was a little bit different. I think we are slowly starting to get better in some aspects. So, for example, we opened a new official Napoli store. We only had 2. Well, we'll still have 2 actually, because they closed another one. But we have 2 in the city of Napoli. They are very small, but the new one they opened is very central and quite nice, I have to be honest. So it's an improvement. It's
better than nothing. And the sponsorship presumably is changed as well.
Yeah, the sponsorship are a little bit more lucrative, and I do think that this is a battle that I'll keep fighting. Removing later, even though it wasn't like they chose to remove later. Later
the red stamp of death.
Yes, I think the shirt designs this season are much better. I haven't seen any reindeers or lips on a shirt so far, so that's quite nice. And I actually, because of that, I also bought a shirt. I haven't done that in 15 years. Now finally I've
done it. The Valentine's Day special modeled by Mario Rui.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that.
What's wrong with you, man?
So we had a record-breaking revenue. There was in part a one-time thing, because last season, like, you could fill like 10 stadiums, based on demand. If we had like a million seater as a stadium, we would have filled a million seats last season. And so Napoli was able to increase ticket prices. So we made a lot more money coming from, the tickets. I think usually the average was like between 10 and 18 millions per season on ticket sales. And last season we did something like, I think, I don't want to be wrong, but I read it like a couple of months ago. I think it was 34 millions for ticket sales. Yeah, that's quite an improvement, right? And we sold many more shirts. When we won the Scudetto, Napoli released all kinds of Scudetto celebrating merchandise. So we sold a lot of that. So to answer to Phil, yes, it's an improvement, but it's I think I would say 70% based on Napoli's performance on the pitch. And again, that's fine, but that fluctuates. It's hard to foresee when you're gonna win a Scudetto or not. So that it doesn't really show structural improvement. 30%, I think, it's based on actual planning and improvement from the club. So it is a step forward. It's not as big as people think it is, in my opinion.
Okay, good answer. I enjoyed that. Cheers, Phil. Okay, I'm going to do some quick fire Glasgow Napoli questions that have flooded in. So, Mark, who's the latest addition, he's a shirt collector, so would have appreciated the chat about that day, etc., etc. Mark asks, do you now consider yourself a Monza fan, as that's where the Zerbinator plays?
Short answer: no, because
Okay.
Zerbin is still a Napoli player. So
Okay.
if Monza actually bought Zerbin, then yes, I would consider it, because everyone
The shadow
would
of,
consider it.
I don't know what's in Monza, in the
I
shadow
have
of
no clue. I have
the
no
car,
idea.
the car
but yeah.
factory.
Yes, Monza fans enjoy Zerbin while you can, but it's gonna come back.
Indeed. I'm sure that we've got this huge spike in listenership now because of all the Zerb and loving Monza fans. But Mark has a serious question. Do you think Higuain, fucking gone, the Porky Boy, is he the most hated man in Napoli's history?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
You have to answer these questions quickly. If you think about them too much, it's gone.
Okay, but let me elaborate a little bit about why it's hard for me to answer that, because there is, like, I can only answer, like, hate is such a passionate, irrational thing that you cannot really, like, it's hard for me to hate someone just because someone tells me to hate that person. Case in point, Altafini, for example. Altafini is one of the most hated players in the history of Napoli, but it was from the 50s, something like that. I don't remember, like
50s and the early 60s, because he went to Juve, right?
He went to Juve, and he was a Napoli legend, and is quite famous. He's quite famously named and called Core Ingrato. Core Ingrato in Napolitan means ungrateful heart. So he's called Ungrateful Heart in Napoli. It's Altafini to this day because of his move from Napoli to Juve. Having said that, I had never seen Altafini play, right? So yeah, I mean, I see Altafini. I know that I have to hate him. I guess I do, but I don't really have any personal hatred towards Altafini. Higuain is something different because I lived through it. For me, so if the question is, personally speaking, for me, Michele, is Higuain the most hated player in the recent history, let's say, or in my personal history? I would say yes, 100%. It left me with, I think, unhealable scars.
Yes.
So, yes.
Which we've covered quite well on the show. And the only Napoli fan that I know who will defend him is dear Mo Salat. Hey Mo, hope you're all right. And you're right in this world to defend who you like. Okay, Craig from Glasgow Napoli. Hey Craig. Who's your favorite player of the post-Maradona era?
Another interesting question. The post-Maradona era. So post-Maradona era is from the 90s. I would say 1992, something like that. And I was born in 1992. So I could say that it's hard for me to remember teams before 2005 because we were really bad and I was very young. So they were rather unremarkable teams. And
I can testify to that. Apart from the Lippi season, yes.
So it's like I remember a few of them, like Stellone, Schwok, but it's really hard for me to actually remember those players. So I remember players from, I would say, 2006 onwards, and it's that's such a hard question.
Don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much.
Okay, no. So because I don't want to give a lame answer, which is no one. But the thing is that it's true. It's no one. It's
Solo La Maglia.
So exactly, solo La Maglia, especially after the Higuain fiasco, the Higuain deal. For me, it's very hard to get attached to players on a personal level. So I can tell you, I guess this question can be interpreted in two ways, like on the pitch and off the pitch. I think off the pitch, my favorite player is Mertens.
Yeah.
Because Mertens is just unbelievable when it comes to attachment to the city. It's crazy to me. Like this guy still owns, and I drove past it yesterday. This guy still owns a house in Napoli, and it's just crazy. It's just like he loves Napoli so much. Like his son is named Ciro, right? So like,
Well,
it's
father and son named Ciro.
exactly. So yeah, on the pitch, it's hard for me to answer. My favorite role, I've said this many times, is regista, and we haven't had many regista in
Go on,
Napoli.
say his name. I know you're going to go on, just say it, Michele.
I mean, currently it's Lobotka, but it's hard for me to say.
Forever
uh,
Lobotka, maybe. Who knows?
it's hard for me. It's hard because we
Jorginho?
Jorginho, but it was a little bit of a typical regista. And before Jorginho, we played without a regista, to be honest, because yeah, with Mazzarri it was a 3-5-2.
Can't really call Inler a regista.
Yeah,
Really.
exactly. So
Okay, well
no,
we'll get a take. I'm going to take Ciro Mertens as the answer.
what about yours though?
My favorite is Daniel Fonseca.
All right.
And he was the guy when I first started watching Napoli. I was a kid, and I genuinely he scored 5 goals against Valencia in the UEFA Cup, and I got a VHS or something. My old PE teacher used to show us European football highlights. He was an interesting man, and I think he just couldn't be bothered to teach class, so he would literally like for PE. Sometimes he'd bring a TV with a VHS player, and we just watch European football highlights for about 20 minutes, and he would just talk to us. He'd be like, "This is good, this is good," and then we'd spend like 10 minutes running around. What a great class, absolute legends. And I remember I just was interested in Napoli because of Maradona in the World Cup and my dad, blah blah blah. I've told the story a million times. But I remember watching these highlights of the UEFA Cup and seeing Fonseca score 5 goals. And the idea of a player scoring 5 goals to me was just like this insane impossibility. And so I had this very distorted view of Daniel Fonseca's abilities for several years, to the point where I used to say he was the best player in the world. I'd always tried to pretend to be him on the pitch. And he was quite good. Uruguayan, looked a bit like a beaver. Caused the dispute between Cagliari and Napoli, as Napoli Talks got a really good video on YouTube about this. So yeah, that's who I would say.
Nice answer.
Okay, this is quite good. I'm quite enjoying this episode. Craig's got another question, but don't be greedy, Craig. We'll cover that the next time we do it, which is about when we're in Serie C. But let's think about that another time. Okay, back to X, or Twitter as it's known. Paul Davis, who's at S734LTH. Why are so many promising transfer deals falling through at the last hurdle? Is it just ADL trying to appease the fans, but without any genuine interest in completing the deal in the first place? And then he's got quite a specific question about how many match tickets can be purchased on a single Fidelity card. So there you go. Can you give your insights to Paul? We've covered a bit in the past about how ADL really doesn't seem to care about the fans, and you don't think that his behavior in the mercato really has anything to do with the fans. Is that the angle you're going to come out with Paul's question?
Yeah, I think so. So first answer very quickly about the fan card. Only one ticket per fan card. That's it.
Okay.
Whatever you read that doesn't say that is wrong. Is wrong. Just one ticket, one fan card. About the market, it's a very complicated position we're in right now, because we are out of top 4. As I said, we don't have the luxury of having a rich owner, so we rely on Champions League money a lot, especially next season's Champions League money, because the Champions League is going to change their format. Yeah. And that means a lot more money, because we are gonna play more games in Champions League if you qualify. If we qualify, so yes, we need that money. And right now we are missing out because we are. I don't even know. Like, I don't watch the table. I haven't watched the table in like a long time. I can't be like it's just too painful.
I think we're 9th, maybe 8th.
Jeez. Okay, whatever. So the position is a little bit difficult because we need to do something, because it's number one priority. And De Laurentiis has always said that, like he doesn't ask for a Scudetto. If it happens, good. But Napoli's number one goal every season is top four, Champions League, because we rely on that money. We rely, if we don't qualify in Champions League, it's very bad in terms of money and in terms of, club's image, which also then reflects on money and revenue. So yeah, we absolutely need that. And De Laurentiis is finally, like he's on, I would say a little bit of panic mode because he knows he has to do something. The thing is, he didn't really hire a sporting director because Meluso is not a sporting director. Let's be honest. I mean, he is, but like I've recently learned that it is mandatory. I guess people knew that. I didn't know that. It is mandatory for Serie A clubs to have a sporting director. So
Ah,
if you don't like, you can compete in Serie A unless in your organizational chart you have a sporting director. So that, to me, when I learned that, that explains so much about Meluso's appointment
I
because I
couldn't
think
remember his name. I was on another podcast. They were asking me about why Napoli were having such a bad season, and I was talking about the sporting director, and then I couldn't remember his name. Which one is my fault, but two is also the ADL's fault for hiring. It's just someone who's,
yeah, look, you're a plastic, but I'm
exactly.
inclined to forgive you on that one because
Wow.
yeah, it's
So many
just
hot takes this episode,
yeah,
Michele.
exactly. But yeah, Meluso, come on, it's just an embarrassment. And
So you reckon it's down to him? I kind of agree, actually.
yeah, no, it's down to the fact that we needed a sporting director to compete in Serie A. It was mandatory, so he just found the first one. It's kind of like a Mazzarri appointment for
Yeah.
sporting directors, just like the first available guy. Come here, yeah, you're our sporting director now.
She's
It's very
available.
well known that Michele, which is our it's been for many years our head scout, is now acting as a sporting director for Napoli. Uh, Again, it's like he's never been a sporting director, so now it's quite hard to do a proper market in panic mode.
Yeah.
It's even more complicated because we know that Mazzari will leave in literally just 4 months. So how do you spend money? So we have the good thing is that we have money. We have
Yep.
some money to
As
spend.
we talked about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, do we spend it? And if yes, how? Because it is quite risky to spend a lot of money on players that maybe our next manager won't like.
Or spend a lot of money if we're out of the top four, getting back into the top four next season. Yeah, have like a bumper mercato in the summer. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I appreciate the fact that the Laurentiis is at least trying to do something. I struggle to see the vision here. Maybe there is no vision. It is quite infuriating again that we have been in panic mode for quite a while now because we've been performing very badly for many months, and we basically signed most of our uh, signings for this transfer market just in the last week of January,
Mm.
and that's quite infuriating to me because I think if if you know that you need to sign players to get back to top four, you try to do that in the first weeks of January. So you give them to your manager. He has time to train them.
There's a lot of games in January too. Like we could have done with some more players against Lazio, as you said. Like we had a lot of people missing, and we signed Torore, who's not fit. Like why are we signing a player that's half fit anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, great, nice. Okay, I think we've got one more, and then we'll give this a. I've enjoyed this actually. So Raphael, who's one of four Napoli fans that have decided to become the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles on their profile pics. We get asked this at first_half_draw is Raphael's handle. Best place to get a beer before a Napoli home match. Now let's just remind our listeners that Michele, not only do you really not really like soft drinks, is that you don't drink either. You don't really like the taste of alcohol. So
Yeah.
you're a terrible person to ask. Whereas I might have a better answer than you, but what would you say?
Okay, fair enough. So I would say, so I get asked this question a lot by a lot of people. I think especially British fans who come to Napoli because I think
We like a drink.
yeah, well, I mean, I think the culture in the UK is to have drinks before games, right? It's quite prevalent, and so I get asked this question a lot, not just by British people, but yeah, mostly by them. And so first of all, the first answer is that we don't really have that. We don't really have a pre-match drinks tradition in Napoli. That doesn't mean that people don't spontaneously gather and drink something before going inside the stadium, but it's not as prevalent as it is in the UK, for instance, that where it's actually a tradition. I don't know many people who go to the stadium and they have a few drinks and then get in. I know some, but it's quite random. It's not something that people usually do for many reasons. One of the reasons is that, for example, in Curva, there are no reserved seats. So the longer you stay outside the stadium, the worse your seat will be. So as soon
I
as
can
you get
testify
to the
to that.
stadium, right? So as soon as you get to the stadium area, you go right in because you want to make sure that your seats are decent.
Having said that, though,
Yes.
I
Having
would
said
say
that, yes, you answered the second part then.
the place where I felt most like that sort of slightly British tradition of gathering together with fellow fans, having a beer, talking about the game ahead, is the bar where you meet people to give them tickets. What's that bar called?
Calici E. It's actually like a wine bar. The guy working inside there is a sommelier, like a certified sommelier, but they do have beers now. They are very nice. I know them. They are very nice
It's
people.
great, and you can sit outside and you can see the stadium, which is nice. And so obviously,
Yes.
like last season, that was great because you saw all the fans gathering. But even when things aren't going well, I think it's nice to be in the shadow of Maradona, um, and have a beer. And there's usually people there that are picking up other tickets from Michele or who have just popped in because it's right near the stadium. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say,
Yeah.
Raphael.
There
So if you
are
are going to Naples, just drop me a DM. I can send you the name of the place.
Yes, there are a few other spots like on the other side of the stadium. So the spot you mentioned is on the Curva A side. So Distinti Curva A side. That's where we met. On the other side of the stadium, so the Curva B side, there are a few places, not a lot, but a few places. One of the most popular is I think it's called Gazebo. I think I don't want to be wrong on that one, but I think yeah, that's it. And it's right in front of Curva B. And that's where Curva B people meet. Again, it's not a tradition, but a lot of people meet there. And most people, I would say, most people when they get to the stadium, they start queuing. You either are in Curva, and in Curva there are a lot of, again, it's a reserved seating, so you want to make sure to get in early. Distinti, you have reserved seating, but the queues are massive. So you still want to get there and queue like as early as possible. And then the Tribuna people, they can afford to get there quite late because there are no queues and reserved and everything. And they do get what they go there, especially because they can afford to go late to the stadium. So they don't go early and get drinks. They go late.
So there's
So
two bits of advice. There's one somewhere near the stadium, and have a bit of an idea of which side you're going into, and two, get there early. So if you're gonna have a beer before the match, have it really before the match.
yeah. Last season was again a little bit different because a lot of people wanted to go in outside the stadium just to celebrate and stuff. And outside the stadium, there were a lot of people who didn't even have game tickets. They
Oh, it was
just wanted to
so
go
good,
there.
man. It was
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that outside the stadium was like, and we talked about this before, but because the actual events for the last game was a bit of a mess. But those moments before where I lit my first ever flare. Anyway, okay. And Presidente Raffaele Rispo, ciao Raffa, has posted a picture with next to the glorious picture that you sent me in private that I posted of the shadow of Vesuvio. And Rafa says, thoughts? Yeah, I'm jealous. And he's holding a mug that says, F this S, I'm moving to Naples. That's a great mug. I want one. Okay, so let's wrap this up. I've really enjoyed that. It's good. Do send us stuff. Like, we will answer your questions if you send them to us. What's the Neapolitan expression of the week, Michele?
The Neapolitan expression of the week is connected to our transfer market strategy, especially now in January. And it's as I said, I'm quite pleased with it in a way. Look, I'm pleased with let's say, with the overall goal, which is let's try to do something. I know that it's a very low bar to have, but that's fine. That's okay. Because I didn't really expect it. We support a team which had Grassi and Regini January markets. So, it's I appreciate the fact that they're trying to do something. we'll see if they will actually be able to achieve anything at all. But yes, the phrase of the week is linked to that, and it is O sparagno non è mai guadagno. And again, it's one of those phrases which is quite known. I think probably every language has a similar phrase. Again, O sparagno non è mai guadagno. In Italian, it would be Il risparmio non è mai guadagno. And in English, it's just saving is never a profit.
Okay.
You could, yeah, it's hard to translate.
No, I
get
get the understanding. So you'll never, yeah, you'll never profit from saving. Yeah, but
yeah, this is like sparagno is like financial savings.
okay.
So it's like, yeah. So the idea behind this phrase is that if you try to save some money, usually in the long term, it doesn't really go well. You can use that, for example, if you are in doubt about buying, for example, let's say like some devices, electronic devices, or like shoes, no? Especially with like clothing, it applies a lot. So like if you're in doubt between buying like a €5, £5 shirt, t-shirt, or like a 40, 30, usually maybe some people make the mistake of buying the €5 shirt because they want to save money, but in the long run, in the long term, the €30 shirt will last maybe like 10 years, and the €5 shirt you will throw away after like 6 months.
It's what Karl Marx would call a false economy.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. So that applies to I think it applies very well to our transfer market. And fortunately, De Laurentiis has also agrees. So he didn't like it was, I think De Laurentiis, he has many faults, but one of his, to his credit, he learns from his mistakes. Sometimes he learns and makes other mistakes, but it's still, again, it's nice that he makes some mistakes and he usually doesn't repeat it. So when we had that transfer market transfer market with Grassi and Regini, and we were first, and there was a very famous sentence phrased by De Laurentiis saying, "We are first. There is nothing to fix here." And he saved a lot of money. And as everyone knows, we ended up losing that league, that Serie A. We didn't win a Scudetto that year. And that's mostly also, I think, because De Laurentiis refused to buy players. We had a lot of money that year.
We could also argue that the Sarri near miss was because we didn't invest in January. I remember. We could
exactly. Yeah. So we had a lot of, like, Sarri never had a complete team, and we
gained nothing from saving. You gain nothing from saving. That's what we're going to call this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
That also speaks quite nicely to Phil's question as well that we were kind of talking about as well. So, well, there we go. Just goes to show that we have each other, listeners. So I was worried, like, how the hell are we going to talk about the most boring Napoli match I've ever seen, and instead had a lovely chat about all sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, fantastic. All right, then. So you can all find Michele on Twitter at Michele GNT or at Napoli Tickets. You can find me at Henry Bell Calcio. This is part of the Far From Vesuvius network, at Far From Vesuvius, and we are at Shadow of Vesuvio. There you go. Follow us all, and let's hope, right, Michele, we get maybe 3 shots on target against Verona. What do you reckon?
I would be happy with 2.
Okay.
That would be very nice.
Marvelous. All right then. Well, take care, everybody, and in the meantime, Forza Napoli.
Sempre.